Eleanor Whitmore lay perfectly still in her leather armchair, every muscle controlled, breathing shallow and measured, through barely closed lids. She watched the child approach 8 years old, blonde hair escaping a lopsided ponytail, wearing a sweater gone gray from too many washes. The nitroglycerin bottle slipped from her fingers. $500 bills scattered across Persian silk. Clara Miller stopped, knelt. Her small hand hovered over the money enough to feed her family for weeks. Eleanor counted heartbeats. 1, 2, 3. The hand moved past the bills, picked up the medicine. Those warm fingers placed the bottle back into Eleanor's palm, closing her fingers around it gently. "You need this more than I need anything, Mrs. Whitmore." The whisper shattered something frozen in Eleanor's chest. 15 years since losing Sarah, 5 since the suicide. And this strange child had just cracked open a door Eleanor had welded shut. She wasn't testing honesty anymore. She was testing her own capacity to feel. Before we continue, please leave a like and let me know which city you're watching from. Now, let's get back to the story. The Monterey mansion perched on the cliff's edge like a monument to solitude. 12 bedrooms, 8 bathrooms, a library that could hold a small town's worth of stories, yet only one heartbeat echoed through its halls. Eleanor Catherine Whitmore, 62 years old, sole heir to a biotech fortune built on 3 patents that revolutionized diabetes treatment, had become a ghost haunting her own life. From her study window, she could see the exact spot where the coastline curved into shadow. 5 years ago. That's where they'd found Sarah. 17 years old, her whole life ahead of her, gone in one impulsive moment off the Bixby Creek Bridge. The note left behind had been brief. "I wish Mom could have another daughter who knew how to love instead of just spending money." Eleanor's husband Robert had died differently, a massive coronary at his desk, working on another acquisition. That was 10 years ago. She'd grieved him properly, publicly, with a funeral attended by hundreds. But Sarah's death had frozen something inside her, turned her into this creature who tested strangers' children, looking for something she couldn't name. Anna Marie Miller appeared at the mansion's service entrance every Saturday and Sunday, prompt at 7. 35 years old, divorced, with shadows under her eyes that spoke of nights spent worrying over bills. Eleanor had hired her 6 months ago, drawn by something indefinable in the woman's manner, a weight she carried, a guilt that seemed familiar. What Eleanor didn't know was that Anna was actually Anna Marie Henderson, sister to David Henderson, the young man who'd driven Eleanor's car for 3 years, David, who'd been on duty that terrible night when Sarah had asked to be driven to see the sunset at the bridge. David, who'd waited in the car for 2 hours before calling the police. David, who'd died of pancreatic cancer 2 years later, eaten alive by guilt. Clara Grace Miller was the unexpected variable. 8 years old, wise beyond her years in the way only children who've raised themselves can be. Her father had vanished when she was 3, leaving nothing but debts and a void where safety should have been. She wore her grandmother's small gold cross on a chain too long for her neck, tucked it inside her collar like a secret. She read at a 6th grade level but hid it carefully, having learned that standing out meant getting hurt. Saturday morning arrived wrapped in Pacific fog. Eleanor had been planning this test for weeks, ever since she'd noticed something unusual about Anna Miller, the way the woman arrived early and left late, refusing overtime pay, cleaning with a devotion that went beyond professional duty. There was guilt in those movements, familiar as a mirror. Eleanor positioned herself in the leather armchair at precisely 10:15, when Anna always cleaned the kitchen and Clara would be alone. She'd told Anna to bring the child today. The regular babysitter called in sick, didn't she? A lie, but Anna couldn't afford to miss work. The medicine bottle, actually Sarah's old antidepressants, expired in 2019, rested loose in her palm. The envelope with $500 bills sat strategically placed, mouth open, tempting. Clara entered the great room like a deer entering a meadow, cautious but curious. Eleanor watched through lashes as the child stopped, transfixed by the wall of windows overlooking the ocean. The sound of waves had drawn her from the kitchen where Anna had told her to stay. "Just sit quietly, baby. Don't touch anything." But how could a child resist this space? The room was larger than their entire apartment. Cathedral ceilings soared 20 feet high. The chandelier Venetian crystal caught morning light and scattered rainbows across butter-soft leather furniture that had never known the weight of a child. Clara approached slowly, Mary Jane's clicking on marble. She wore her best dress navy blue, handed down twice, carefully mended where the hem had torn. Her hair, wheat-colored like Sarah's had been, was pulled into a ponytail that listed to one side despite Anna's best efforts with the brush that morning. The child stopped 3 feet away. Eleanor could feel her presence like heat from a small sun. Clara's breathing changed. She'd noticed the sleeping woman. Eleanor kept her breath shallow, controlled. This was the test. This was the moment that would reveal whether this child was different or just another grabbing hand in a grabbing world. The medicine bottle slipped. It hit the Persian rug with a muffled thud, rolled toward Clara's feet. The money scattered like autumn leaves. Franklin's face repeated 5 times across silk and wool that cost more than Anna made in a year. Clara knelt. Eleanor's heart hammered against her ribs. The child's hand moved toward the money. Of course. $500. Enough for groceries for months. Enough for the electricity bill that Anna had been discussing on the phone, thinking Eleanor couldn't hear. Enough for new shoes to replace the ones Clara had outgrown. That pinched her feet, though she never complained. The small hand stopped, hovered, then moved past the bills entirely. Clara picked up the medicine bottle. She stood, approached Eleanor's chair with footsteps soft as whispers. This close. Eleanor could smell the child Johnson's baby shampoo, though she was 8. The faint scent of toast from breakfast. Something sweet and clean like fresh snow, though it never snowed in Monterey. Those small fingers warm, slightly sticky, took Eleanor's hand and placed the bottle back in her palm, carefully closing Eleanor's fingers around it. Clara adjusted the afghan that had slipped from Eleanor's shoulders, tucking it carefully like she was tucking in something precious. Then came the whisper that would change everything. "You need this more than I need anything, Mrs. Whitmore. My mama takes the same kind. I know what the sad medicine looks like." Clara stepped back, knelt again, and carefully collected the 5 bills. She placed them back in the envelope, set it on the side table next to Eleanor's chair. Then, as if nothing had happened, she walked to the window and stood watching the ocean, hands clasped behind her back like a miniature adult. "It's pretty," she said softly to herself. "Sarah must have loved it here." Eleanor's eyes snapped open. "What did you say?" Clara turned, not startled, as if she'd known all along that Eleanor was awake. "Sarah, your daughter. Mama told me not to mention her, but her pictures are everywhere. She had kind eyes. Sad, but kind. Like yours. You knew I was testing you. It wasn't a question." Clara nodded solemnly. "Grown-ups test kids all the time, usually to see if we're bad, but you were testing to see if I was good. That's different. How could you possibly know that—" Clara looked back at the ocean. "Because you're not mean. Mean people test to hurt. Sad people test to hope. You were hoping. What was I hoping for? Someone who would choose you instead of your money." Clara's voice was matter-of-fact, as if discussing weather. "That's what Mama hopes for, too. Someone who sees her. Not just her mistakes." Eleanor stood slowly, joints protesting. "Your mother has mistakes. Everyone does. Mama cries at night sometimes. She thinks I don't hear. She whispers a name, David. Says she's sorry over and over." Clara turned back to Eleanor. "Is David someone you know?" The blood drained from Eleanor's face. David Henderson. Her driver. The last person to see Sarah alive. Anna's maiden name she'd never asked, never checked. The guilt in Anna's shoulders, the familiar sorrow, it all clicked into place like a terrible puzzle. "Mrs. Whitmore." Clara's voice came from very far away. "Are you okay? Should I get your medicine for real this time?" Eleanor sank back into the chair. "Get your mother. Tell her. Tell her I know who she is." Clara studied her for a long moment, then shook her head. "No. That would scare her. How about instead, you pretend you don't know, and she pretends she's not carrying something heavy, and maybe if you both pretend long enough, you can practice being okay until it's real. The wisdom of it brutal. Innocent wisdom took Eleanor's breath away. You're 8 years old, almost 9, and I've been taking care of Mama since Daddy left when I was 3. You learn things. Clara walked over and did something unexpected. She took Eleanor's hand and held it. Just held it. Your hands are cold. Sarah's were probably cold too, at the end. But you're still warm. That's what matters. Eleanor began to cry then, for the first time since Sarah's funeral. Not the careful, controlled tears of public grief, but raw, ugly sobs that shook her whole body. Clara didn't let go. She just stood there, 8 years old, holding a stranger's hand while she fell apart. From the kitchen came Anna's voice, sharp with fear. "Clara, where are you? I told you not to." She appeared in the doorway and froze, seeing Eleanor crying, Clara beside her. "Mama," Clara said calmly, "Mrs. Whitmore is sad. When we're sad, we need people. Can we be her people?" Anna's face. Eleanor saw it now, really saw it. The resemblance to David in the set of her jaw, the green eyes that had watched Sarah leave that last night through his DNA. Anna's mouth opened, closed, opened again. Mrs. Whitmore, I'm so sorry. Clara, come here right now." "No." Eleanor's voice came out rough. She squeezed Clara's hand. "Stay. Both of you. Please." 3 weeks had passed since the test. Clara came every weekend now, no longer confined to the kitchen. She would dust the library while Eleanor pretended to read, secretly watching the child run her fingers along the spines of first editions, mouthing the titles silently. Anna worked with fierce concentration, as if perfect windows could somehow erase an unnamed debt. It was Sunday afternoon when Eleanor found Anna in Sarah's room. The door had been closed for 5 years. Eleanor herself hadn't entered since the day after the funeral. But there was Anna, kneeling beside Sarah's bed, crying so quietly it was almost soundless, in her hands. She held a photograph from Sarah's desk, the senior portrait, taken just 2 months before the end. "She was beautiful," Anna whispered, not turning around. She'd heard Eleanor's footsteps but didn't startle. "She looked like she could have done anything." Eleanor stood in the doorway, unable to cross the threshold. She wanted to be a marine biologist, said the ocean understood her. "David." Anna's voice caught. "My brother. He said she talked about the whales that night, how they sing to each other across thousands of miles, how they're never really alone." There it was, the admission. Eleanor's hand gripped the doorframe. "Your brother," Anna finally turned, her face ravaged by grief. "David Henderson. He was your driver. He drove Sarah that night. He never forgave himself." She stood slowly, still holding the photograph. "He died 2 years later. Pancreatic cancer. But really, he died of guilt. I took this job because I needed to know who you were, who she was, why it happened." Eleanor felt the world tilt. "You've been here 6 months, living with this secret." "I'm sorry. I'll pack our things. I needed to understand. David loved his job, loved Sarah like a little sister. He said she was the only rich kid who ever asked about his life, his dreams. That night, she told him she was going to watch the sunset. He waited 2 hours before he got worried. And you blame me." It wasn't a question. Anna shook her head violently. "No, I blamed David. He blamed himself. But being here, seeing you, you're not what I expected. You're not some cold, distant mother who drove her daughter away. You're just broken, like us. From the hallway came a small voice. Mama, Clara appeared, clutching a piece of paper. She looked between the two women, reading the room with that uncanny accuracy traumatized children develop for survival. I was in the library, she said carefully. I found something, hidden in a book about whales. She held out the paper. Eleanor recognized Sarah's handwriting immediately. Her knees went weak. Should I read it? Clara asked. Sometimes when grown-ups are stuck, a kid reading helps because we don't know how to make the words hurt more than they already do. Anna started to protest, but Eleanor nodded. Clara unfolded the paper, cleared her throat, and read in her clear, high voice. Dear Mom, if you're finding this, it means I couldn't say it out loud. I don't hate you. I never hated you. I hate that I'm not enough to make you stop working. I hate that Daddy died at his desk and you're going to die at yours. I hate that I'm 17 and I've had dinner alone more than with you. But I don't hate you. I love you. I just don't know how to reach you anymore. Maybe if I was different. Maybe if I was more interesting than your work. Maybe if I could be the daughter you actually wanted instead of the one you got. I'm tired of maybe. Love. Sarah. The silence that followed was deafening. Clara carefully folded the letter, walked to Eleanor, and placed it in her hands. She was wrong, Clara said simply. About not being enough. People aren't supposed to be enough for other people. That's too heavy for one person to carry. Eleanor sank onto Sarah's bed. The mattress sighed under her weight the first time anyone had sat there in 5 years. I found her note, the real one. After. It said she wished I could have another daughter who knew how to love instead of just spending money. That was mean, Clara said, sitting beside her uninvited. Hurt people say mean things. She didn't really want you to have a different daughter. She wanted you to see the daughter you had. Anna remained frozen by the window. Clara, we should go. No. Eleanor's voice was stronger now. Your brother David, what was he like? Anna's face crumpled. Kind. So kind it killed him. He used to bring Sarah books about the ocean. Did you know that? With his own money? Said she reminded him of me at that age, hungry to know everything. Eleanor didn't know. There was so much she didn't know. Clara stood up, walked to Sarah's bookshelf, and pulled out a thick blue volume. Mysteries of the Deep Pacific. She read. To Sarah, who sees wonder everywhere. From David, who's learning to see it too. He was teaching her to drive. Anna whispered. She was terrible at it. Kept forgetting to check mirrors. He said she was always looking at the sky instead of the road. Eleanor laughed a broken sound. She failed the test 3 times. David felt so guilty about that. Said he was a terrible teacher. They were circling the truth now. 3 women in a dead girl's room, each carrying a piece of a story too heavy for any one of them to hold alone. Clara suddenly announced, I've been leaving you presents. Eleanor looked at her, confused. Presents? In your study? The drawings? The origami birds? The pressed flowers? I signed them, from someone who sees you, because you looked so lonely. And when I'm lonely, I like to know someone sees me. Eleanor's breath caught. She'd found those small gifts, treasured them, wondered if somehow Sarah was trying to communicate from beyond. I see you too, Clara continued. You eat standing up at the kitchen counter. You replay the same voicemail from Sarah 17 times I counted. You water the roses at exactly 3:15 every day, because that's when school got out and Sarah would come find you in the garden. Clara, Anna warned. But Clara wasn't done. And Mama, I see you too. You clean Sarah's room when Mrs. Whitmore is on conference calls. You dust her trophies extra careful. You apologize to her pictures when you think no one's listening. Both women stared at this impossible child who saw everything, who held up mirrors they'd rather avoid. We're all stuck, Clara said matter-of-factly. Stuck in a sad story about a sad girl who made a sad choice. But we're still here. We can write a different story. Eleanor found herself responding to this strange wisdom. How do you know so much about stories? Books, Clara said simply. When Daddy left, I read all the books in the public library kids section. Books always have people who are stuck and then get unstuck. Usually they need help. There was a knock at the front door. Eleanor frowned. Sunday visitors were unheard of. That would be my sister-in-law, Eleanor said heavily. Margaret, Robert's sister. Anna went pale. Should I? Stay, Eleanor said firmly. Both of you. Let's see what Margaret wants. They descended the stairs together, an odd trio. Margaret Whitmore stood in the foyer, her silver hair perfect, her suit worth more than Anna's car. Behind her stood a man in an expensive suit, a lawyer, by the look of him. Eleanor, Margaret's voice was ice. We need to talk about your concerning behavior. Concerning? Margaret's gaze flicked dismissively over Anna and Clara. Fraternizing with the help, bringing their children into Sarah's room. Eleanor, dear, you're clearly not well. The family is concerned. The family, Eleanor repeated flatly. You mean you're concerned about the will? Don't be crude. We're concerned about you. This attachment to your maid's child. It's unseemly, unhealthy. Perhaps you need help, professional help, somewhere restful. Clara stepped forward. Eleanor tried to pull her back, but the child stood firm. Mrs. Whitmore isn't crazy, Clara said clearly. She's sad. There's a difference. Crazy people don't know they're broken. Sad people feel every crack. Margaret's mouth pursed like she'd tasted something sour. Children should be seen and not heard. That's what Sarah thought too, Clara shot back. That she was seen but not heard. Look how that ended. The slap of words was almost physical. Margaret stepped back. How dare you? I dare because I'm 8 and I've got nothing to lose, Clara interrupted. You've got money to lose. That's why you're here. You don't care if Mrs. Whitmore is sad or happy. You care if she's going to give away money that you think should be yours. The lawyer cleared his throat. Perhaps you should leave, Eleanor said, finding her voice. Now. Margaret's face flushed. Eleanor, you're not thinking clearly. This child, this situation, what would Robert think? What would Sarah think? Sarah, Eleanor said slowly, would think it was about time I chose people over propriety. Margaret gathered herself, signaling the lawyer. This isn't over. The family has resources. We can petition for conservatorship if you continue down this path. After they left, the three stood in the echoing foyer. She'll make trouble, Anna said quietly. Let her try. Eleanor looked down at Clara. You know you just made an enemy. Clara shrugged. I've had worse. Billy Thompson at school. He's meaner than her and he's only 9. Despite everything, Eleanor laughed, then Anna laughed, then Clara giggled. They stood in the marble foyer of a monument to loss, laughing like the absurdity of it all was the only sane response. I want to show you something, Eleanor said suddenly. She led them to her study, to a shelf Clara had dusted many times. Eleanor pulled out a leather journal. I've been writing to Sarah, every day since she died. Letters she'll never read. She handed it to Clara. But maybe someone should read them. Someone who sees everything anyway. Clara took the journal reverently. She opened to a random page, read silently, then looked up with tears streaming down her face. You did love her, right? She whispered. You just loved her in a language she couldn't hear. What do you mean? Clara pointed to the page. Every letter starts with what you wanted to give her. Dance lessons, a car, college tuition, a trip to see the whales. But Sarah didn't speak gift language. She spoke time language. You were saying I love you in French when she only understood English. The simple truth of it was devastating. Eleanor sank into her chair. Anna moved closer, reading over Clara's shoulder. Oh, Eleanor, these letters. She would have loved these letters. You're funny, and warm, and real. Where was this person when Sarah was alive? Hiding behind conference calls and wire transfers? Eleanor said bitterly. Being the provider Robert always was, I thought if I could give her everything she'd never want for anything. I didn't realize she just wanted me. Clara climbed into Eleanor's lap uninvited, unexpected, but somehow exactly right. It's not too late. She's dead, sweetheart. But we're not. Clara's logic was relentless. Mama needs someone to see her as more than David's sister. You need someone to need you for more than money. And I need... She paused, vulnerable for the first time. I need to matter to someone who won't leave. The weight of the small body in her lap, the warmth of it, the trust of it, Eleanor felt something crack open inside her chest. Not breaking, hatching. Margaret will fight this, Anna warned. If you're thinking what I think you're thinking, let her, Eleanor said, arms tightening around Clara. I've got the best lawyers money can buy. And more importantly, she looked at Clara, then at Anna, I've got something worth fighting for. 2 months had passed since Margaret's threat. The legal papers arrived on a Tuesday morning, delivered by a courier who wouldn't meet Eleanor's eyes. Petition for conservatorship. Claims of mental incompetence. Affidavits from 3 household staff members who'd quit over the years, painting Eleanor as erratic, depressed, possibly delusional. They're saying I'm unfit, Eleanor said, spreading the papers across the kitchen table where Anna and Clara were having breakfast. That my inappropriate attachment to Clara demonstrates impaired judgment. Anna's hands trembled as she read. They mentioned David. How did they? Private investigators, Eleanor said grimly. Margaret's thorough. She's claiming you deliberately targeted me, that this is some elaborate manipulation. Clara, eating cereal with mathematical precision, looked up. What's conservationship? Conservatorship, Eleanor corrected gently. It means someone else would make decisions for me, about money, about who I see, about everything. Like you're a kid. Essentially, Clara considered this. That's stupid. You're the smartest grown-up I know. You have 3 patents. Despite everything, Eleanor smiled. Clara had been reading her biography online, consuming every detail with the hunger of someone trying to understand their world. The doorbell rang. Anna jumped, but Eleanor was expecting this. That'll be James Mitchell. Dr. Mitchell had been Eleanor's psychiatrist for 3 years, since Robert's death. He entered with his characteristic calm, but Eleanor could see the concern beneath. Eleanor, I got Margaret's subpoena. I wanted to discuss this in person. They moved to the living room. Clara tried to follow, but Anna held her back. Grown-up talk. Baby. I am grown up, Clara protested. I'm the one they're saying Mrs. Whitmore is crazy for caring about. Dr. Mitchell overheard and surprised them all. Actually, I'd like Clara present, if this goes to court. Understanding her role in Eleanor's life will be crucial. They sat in a circle, absurdly formal. Dr. Mitchell pulled out his notes. Eleanor, I need to be direct. Your depression scores have actually improved in the last 2 months. Dramatically. But Margaret's team will argue that's evidence of mania, not healing. Because I'm happy. Eleanor's voice was incredulous. Because you're making significant life changes, pursuing adoption, changing your will. They're painting a picture of someone in crisis making impulsive decisions. Anna spoke up. It's my fault. I should never have... Stop. Eleanor's voice was sharp. You came here seeking understanding. That's not manipulation. Dr. Mitchell leaned forward. The court will want to know about David, about why Anna really took this job. Anna's whole body seemed to cave inward. I'll tell them everything. How I couldn't sleep, knowing David died thinking he'd failed Sarah. How I needed to see if Mrs. Whitmore was the monster I'd built in my head or just another broken person. And what did you find? Dr. B. Mitchell asked gently. Family, Clara answered for her mother. We found family. Dr. Sid Mitchell made notes. Eleanor, the heart medication incident. They know about that. Eleanor was shocked. The investigator interviewed a pharmacy tech. They know you've been carrying Sarah's expired antidepressants. They're using it as evidence of delusion. Clara stood up abruptly. This is backwards. Everything is backwards. She began pacing, an oddly adult gesture in a child's body. Mrs. Whitmore was sad. Really sad. The kind of sad where you carry around dead people's medicine because it's all you have left of them. Then she met us, and she started being less sad. Now they want to punish her for getting better. The timing is suspicious to them, Dr. Mitchell explained. A grieving billionaire suddenly attaching to her maid's daughter. I'm not just the maid's daughter, Clara's voice cracked with rare emotion. I'm Clara Grace Miller, and I skip count by sevens when I'm scared, and I read at an 8th grade level, but hide it so kids won't hate me more, and I know what wine goes with fish because I studied it in case Mrs. Whitmore ever asked me to set a fancy table, and I practice talking in the mirror so I won't embarrass her if she takes me places, and I... She broke off, breathing hard. Eleanor reached for her, and Clara fell into her arms. I'm trying so hard to be worth it, Clara whispered. To be worth losing all your money over? Eleanor held her tighter. Oh, sweetheart, you're worth everything just by being you. Anna was crying silently. Doctor. Mitchell cleared his throat. This is what the court needs to see. Not legal arguments, but this. Margaret won't care, Eleanor said bitterly. But Judge Harrison might. Dr. Mitchell said. He has grandchildren. He understands love isn't always logical. The first hearing was set for next week. Eleanor hired the best family lawyer in California, Ruth Chen, who'd handled adoptions for 3 governors and had never lost a conservatorship case. Ruth arrived that afternoon, sharp as winter. She interviewed them separately, then together. When she was done, she sat back. The brother angle is a problem. They'll say Anna orchestrated this entire relationship. That's not... Anna started. I know, but perception matters. We need character witnesses, people who've seen you together, seen the genuine connection. We don't really... We keep to ourselves, Eleanor admitted. What about Father O'Brien? Clara suggested. He knows us, knows me and Mama from before, knows Mrs. Whitmore from now. Ruth made a note. Good. Who else? They struggled to find names. The isolation of wealth had left Eleanor with acquaintances, not friends. Anna's poverty had done the same. There's Mrs. Chen from the library, Clara offered. She sees me check out books for Mrs. Whitmore, and Dr. Patel from the free clinic. Mama volunteers there, and now Mrs. Whitmore does too. You volunteer at a free clinic? Ruth looked at Eleanor with surprise. Clara suggested it. Said if I had too much money, I should give away time instead. We go Tuesday mornings. Ruth smiled, the first warm expression she'd shown. That's good. Very good. Shows community engagement. Sound judgment. The week before the hearing, Margaret escalated. She leaked the story to a society blogger. Billionaire widow's bizarre obsession with servant's child. It went viral in Monterey's elite circles. Eleanor's phone rang constantly. Former friends expressing concern. Business associates suggesting she take a vacation until this blows over. One caller was particularly cruel. Sarah would be mortified. Clara heard that one. She took the phone from Eleanor's shaking hand. "Sarah is dead," she told the caller calmly. "Dead people don't get to be mortified. But if she was alive, I think she'd be glad her mom finally figured out that love is free and you can't put a price on it." She hung up. Eleanor stared at her. "You didn't have to." "Yes, I did. You're my person now. I protect my people." Anna found them that evening in the garden. Eleanor teaching Clara to deadhead roses Sarah's roses, kept perfect for 5 years by hired gardeners, now tended by hands that knew their story. "We could leave," Anna said quietly. "Disappear. Let you return to your life." Eleanor straightened, dirt under her manicured nails. "This is my life. You and Clara, the clinic, these roses. This is the first real life I've had in years." "But your money is just paper with dead presidents on it," Clara interrupted, proud of her new phrase from a book about economics she'd found in Eleanor's library. Eleanor laughed. "Essentially, yes." Margaret filed an emergency motion, Anna said, holding out her phone. "She's claiming immediate harm. Says you're being financially exploited." Eleanor took the phone, read quickly. Her accounts had been temporarily restricted pending review. She could access basic living expenses, but no major transactions. "She's trying to starve us out," Eleanor said. "Make it impossible for me to pay Ruth. To fight back. I have $17, Clara offered solemnly. "And a savings bond from Grandma. It's worth $50 next year." The pure generosity of it, this child who had nothing offering everything, broke Eleanor's composure. She knelt in the dirt, pulling Clara close. "We're going to fight this," she promised. "All of us." Ruth called that night with unexpected news. "Thomas Whitmore wants to meet. Margaret's son, the lawyer who came with her. No, that was hired counsel. Thomas is her son. He's conflicted about this whole situation." They met Thomas at a neutral location, a coffee shop downtown where Eleanor had never been but Anna knew well. Thomas Whitmore looked like Robert's same strong jaw, same kind eyes that Margaret's branch of the family had somehow missed. "Aunt Eleanor," he said formally, then looked at Anna and Clara. "Mrs. Miller. Clara." They sat awkwardly. Thomas ordered coffee. Clara ordered hot chocolate with extra whipped cream, then worried she'd seemed greedy. Eleanor ordered the same thing in solidarity. "My mother is wrong," Thomas said without preamble. "What she's doing is wrong." "Then why don't you stop her?" Clara asked. "Because she's my mother, and she genuinely believes she's protecting the family legacy." "From us?" Anna asked quietly. "We never asked for anything." "That's what makes you dangerous to her," Thomas said. "If you wanted money, she could understand that. Fight that. But wanting love, offering love, she doesn't have a defense against that." He pulled out a folder. "I'm not supposed to have this. It's their strategy for the hearing. They're going to claim Eleanor is recreating Sarah with Clara, that it's a delusion born of grief." Eleanor's breath caught. "That's not Clara, isn't." "I know," Thomas said gently. "I've been watching, investigating on my own. Clara, you're nothing like Sarah was. Sarah was sweet but sheltered. You're—" He searched for words. "You're steel wrapped in kindness. You're what Sarah might have become if she'd had to fight for anything." Clara studied him with those two wise eyes. "You loved Sarah." It wasn't a question. Thomas nodded. "She was my cousin. We spent summers together as children. Before the money got so big, it separated everyone." "What would she think?" Clara asked. "About all this?" Thomas was quiet for a long moment. "I think she'd be happy her mother finally learned to let someone in, even if it took losing her to learn it." He slid the folder across the table. "Their entire case. Do what you need to with it." Eleanor touched the folder like it might burn. Margaret will know you gave this to us. Probably. She'll cut you off. Disinherit you. Thomas stood. Some things are worth more than inheritance. He looked at Clara. Take care of her. Okay, both of them. They need you more than they know. After he left, Clara asked, why would he give up all that money for us? Because, Eleanor said slowly, understanding dawning. He knows what it's like to lose someone to the prison of wealth. He doesn't want it to happen again. Ruth was ecstatic when they showed her the folder. This changes everything. I can prepare counter-arguments for every point. But that night, Anna collapsed in the kitchen. Eleanor heard the crash, found Anna on the floor, conscious but gray-faced. Clara stood frozen in the doorway. Mama. I'm okay, Anna gasped, but she clearly wasn't. The ambulance ride was a blur. Clara sat between them, holding both their hands, small fingers fierce with determination. At the hospital, they ran tests. Eleanor paid cash. Her restricted accounts wouldn't cover another person's medical care, but she had enough physical currency hidden in the house. Old habit from Robert's day. Dr. Hernandez delivered the news gently. It's a mass in your left breast. We need to do more tests, but given your family history... David had pancreatic cancer, Anna said numbly. Our father had lung cancer. Our mother, ovarian. We'll run genetic testing, but right now we need to focus on treatment options. Clara hadn't let go of her mother's hand. Is Mama going to die? We're going to do everything we can. Doctor, Hernandez said carefully. That's not an answer, Clara said flatly. I need real answers. I can handle real answers. Dr. Hernandez looked at Eleanor, who nodded. The 5-year survival rate for stage 2 breast cancer is about 93%. Higher with aggressive treatment. 93%, Clara repeated. That's an A grade. That's good. Treatment is expensive, Anna said quietly. I don't have insurance. I can't. I'll pay, Eleanor said immediately. Your accounts are frozen. Then I'll sell things. Jewelry. Art. The cars. I don't care. You can't. Not without court approval. Not with the conservatorship pending. Clara stood up. Then we go to court. We tell them everything. We make them see. She looked between the two women who'd become her world. We're not losing anyone else. Not to cancer. Not to money. Not to mean people who think love has a price tag. Anna reached for Eleanor's hand. I'm scared. Me too, Eleanor admitted. Me three, Clara said, climbing onto the hospital bed to curl between them. But scared together is better than scared alone. They stayed that way for an hour. 3 generations of chosen family facing an uncertain future, held together by nothing more and nothing less than love. The next morning, Ruth called with news that would change everything. Judge Harrison wants to meet Clara, alone, in his chambers. It's unusual, but he has that discretion. Absolutely not, Anna said immediately. She's 8 years old. Mom, Clara said quietly, I can do this. I've been doing this my whole life, talking to adults who think kids are invisible. Judge Harrison needs to see I'm real, not a symbol or a replacement or a delusion. Just Clara. Eleanor knelt before her. You don't have to do this. We'll find another way. Clara touched Eleanor's face gently. Sarah couldn't speak for herself at the end, but I can. Let me speak for all of us. The hearing was tomorrow. Anna's biopsy was scheduled for next week. The future hung in the balance, waiting for an 8-year-old girl to convince a judge that love wasn't madness, that family wasn't always blood, and that sometimes the best things in life couldn't be measured in dollars and cents. That night, Clara asked to sleep in Eleanor's bed. They lay in the dark, Clara in the middle, Anna on one side, Eleanor on the other. "Tell me about Sarah," Clara said. "Not the sad parts, the real parts." So Eleanor did. She talked about Sarah's first word wail, her fear of butterflies, her terrible singing voice that didn't stop her from belting out songs in the shower. Anna added her own memories, things David had told her about Sarah's kindness, her questions, her dreams of swimming with orcas. "She sounds nice," Clara said sleepily. "I think we would have been friends." "I think so too," Eleanor whispered. "When I talk to the judge tomorrow," Clara said, "I'm going to tell him about tonight. How we're a family that tells stories in the dark. How we hold each other when we're scared. How we're choosing each other even though it's hard." "What if he doesn't understand?" Anna asked. Clara yawned. "Then he's never been loved right, and that's sad for him, but it's not our fault." As they drifted toward sleep, Eleanor thought about the morning, about the fight ahead, about the possibility of losing everything. But with Clara's small hand in hers and Anna's breathing steady beside them, she realized she'd already won the only thing that mattered. Tomorrow would bring what it would bring. Tonight. They had this three hearts beating in the dark, writing a new story of family, one breath at a time. The courthouse corridors echoed with expensive shoes and whispered strategies. Eleanor sat on a bench outside Judge Harrison's chambers, Ruth Chen beside her, watching Clara disappear behind the heavy oak door. The child had dressed herself navy dress, white tights, Mary Jane's polished until they gleamed. She'd brushed her own hair, tied it back with Sarah's ribbon that Eleanor had given her that morning. 30 minutes, Ruth said, checking her watch. That's all he allowed. Inside the chambers, Clara sat in a leather chair that swallowed her small frame. Judge William Harrison, 73 years old with eyes that had seen every variation of human failing, studied her over his reading glasses. "Do you know why you're here, Clara?" "Yes, sir. You need to decide if Mrs. Whitmore is crazy for loving me." The judge's mouth twitched. "That's one way to put it." "Are you afraid?" "No, sir. Well, yes, but not of you. I'm afraid of losing my family." "Your family, you mean your mother, and Mrs. Whitmore." "She's not my mother yet, but she could be. I'd have two mothers. Some kids don't even get one good one." Judge Harrison pulled out a file. "It says here you've been spending weekends at the Whitmore mansion. What do you do there?" "Lots of things. I read to Mrs. Whitmore from Sarah's ocean books. We tend the roses. Sarah loved yellow ones best. We volunteer at the clinic on Tuesdays. Mrs. Whitmore holds babies while their mothers fill out forms. She's good at it. Gentle." "And what about the money? Do you understand how much money Mrs. Whitmore has?" Clara nodded. $300 million, approximately. But it's mostly in trusts and investments. Liquid assets are much less. The judge's eyebrows rose. "How do you know that?" "I read. Mrs. Whitmore doesn't hide things from me. She says information is power, and little girls need all the power they can get." "Do you want her money?" "I want her time." Clara's voice was steady. "Money can't tuck you in. Money can't teach you to make Sarah's favorite soup. Money can't hold you when you wake up screaming because you dreamed your mama died like your daddy left." Judge Harrison leaned back. "Tell me about the night you found her test." Clara's eyes sharpened. "You know about that." "I know everything, child. It's my job to know." Clara was quiet for a moment, organizing her thoughts the way Eleanor had taught her beginning, middle, end. Mrs. Whitmore was pretending to sleep. The medicine bottle fell. So did money. $500. I knew it was a test. She met the judge's eyes directly. "Foster kids know about tests. My friend Lily, before her dad left, he'd leave beer money on the counter to see if she'd steal it. She always did. Then he'd hit her and say she deserved it for being a thief." "That's a serious accusation." "It's not an accusation. It's a fact. Lily's in foster care now. Better than home, she says. Clara smoothed her dress. But Mrs. Whitmore wasn't testing to hurt. She was testing to hope. There's a difference. How could you know that? Because when I gave back the medicine, she cried. Mean people don't cry when you're good. They get madder because they wanted you to be bad. Judge Harrison made notes. What about Sarah? Do you think Mrs. Whitmore sees Sarah when she looks at you? Clara shook her head firmly. Sarah had brown eyes. Mine are blue. Sarah was soft. I've seen videos. I'm sharp. Sarah trusted everyone. I don't trust anyone except Mama and Mrs. Whitmore. And now you, a little bit, because you're listening instead of just deciding. You're very articulate for 8, almost 9, and trauma makes you grow up fast. That's what Dr. Mitchell says. You've met with Dr. Mitchell. He wanted to make sure Mrs. Whitmore wasn't hurting me, asked me all kinds of questions. Did she touch me weird? No. Did she make me keep secrets? No. Did she try to separate me from Mama? No, she made sure Mama got a raise and health insurance. About your mother. Judge Harrison pulled out another paper. She's David Henderson's sister, the driver who drove Sarah the night she died. Yes, Mama came to work for Mrs. Whitmore because she needed to understand. She needed to see if Mrs. Whitmore was a monster who drove Sarah away or just a sad person who loved wrong. And what did she find? Family. Clara's voice cracked for the first time. She found someone who understood losing people. Mrs. Whitmore lost Sarah and Mr. Robert. Mama lost David and my daddy. I lost my daddy and almost lost Mama to sadness. We're all broken in the same places. Meanwhile, in the courtroom, Margaret Whitmore's lawyer was painting a vivid picture. Your Honor, we have a grief-stricken widow with a history of depression, carrying her dead daughter's expired medication, suddenly fixated on a child who bears a striking resemblance to her lost daughter. Objection, Ruth said calmly. Clara Miller bears no physical resemblance to Sarah Whitmore. Emotional resemblance, then, a precocious child, wise beyond her years. Because poverty and abandonment forced her to be, Ruth interrupted. Eleanor watched Margaret across the aisle. Her sister-in-law sat rigid, perfect, untouchable. She'd never understood Sarah, never understood Robert's warmth, never understood anything that couldn't be quantified and controlled. Back in chambers, Judge Harrison showed Clara a photograph. Do you know who this is? It was Sarah at Clara's current age 8, grinning, missing a front tooth. That's Sarah. Mrs. Whitmore has the same picture in her bedroom. She talks to it sometimes. Does that bother you? No. I talk to my daddy's picture too, and he's not even dead. Just gone. Clara studied the photo. She was happy here. Before the money got so big it ate everything. What do you mean? Mrs. Whitmore told me that when Sarah was little, they were just regular rich. Nice house, good school, vacations. Then Mr. Robert's patents sold for hundreds of millions. Everything changed. Private jets, security guards. No more normal. Sarah went from having friends to having people who wanted to be friends with money. And you? Don't you want to be friends with money? Clara laughed a bright, unexpected sound. Judge Harrison, I'm 8. I want a bike that doesn't wobble and books I don't have to return to the library and maybe a dress that nobody wore before me. That's not hundreds of millions. That's just normal kid stuff. What about college travel opportunities? Mrs. Whitmore says if I'm legally hers, there'll be a trust for education, not millions, just enough. She learned from Sarah that too much money is poison for kids. Judge Harrison leaned forward. Clara, this is important. Has anyone coached you on what to say to me? No, sir. Mama wanted to, but Mrs. Whitmore said I should just tell the truth. She said truth is messy, but lies are messier. Your mother is sick. Clara's composure cracked slightly. Breast cancer, stage 2, 93% survival rate with treatment. Treatment Mrs. Whitmore wants to pay for. Yes. but can't. Because of this legal situation. Yes. Clara's hands fisted in her lap. Which is stupid. Margaret Whitmore would rather have money sit in accounts than save my mama's life. That's not protecting anything. That's just mean. You understand that if I rule in Margaret's favor, you'll likely never see Mrs. Whitmore again. Clara's breath hitched. She'll forget us. She'll be prevented from contact. For her own protection. They'd say, protection from love. Clara's voice rose. Protection from having dinner with people who actually want to hear about her day. Protection from teaching me to bake Sarah's favorite cookies. Protection from finally crying all the tears she's been holding for 5 years. She stood up, too agitated to sit. Judge Harrison, I know I'm just a kid. I know my words don't matter as much as the grown-ups with their big lawyer words, but I see everything. I see Mrs. Whitmore eating standing up at the counter because sitting at that big table alone hurts too much. I see her wake up at 3:17 every night because that's when the police called about Sarah. I see her water Sarah's roses even when it's raining because routine is all that holds her together some days. Clara took a breath, steadying herself. But I also see her now. She sits at the table because we're there too. She sleeps through the night when I have nightmares and crawl in with her because taking care of me gives her purpose. She added new roses, pink ones for Mama, white ones for me, because the garden is about life now, not just memory. You've thought about this a lot. I think about everything a lot. It's how I survive. Clara returned to her chair. May I tell you something that happened last week? Go ahead. Mrs. Whitmore took me to Sarah's favorite beach, not the one where it happened, a different one, quiet. She told me that Sarah used to collect sea glass there. We looked for pieces. I found a blue one, perfect, smooth. Mrs. Whitmore said I should keep it, but I threw it back into the ocean. Why? Because Sarah would have... Mrs. D. Whitmore told me Sarah always threw the perfect pieces back so someone else could have the joy of finding them. Clara met his eyes. That's who Mrs. Whitmore is. Someone who throws perfect things back into the world for others to find. Margaret wants to keep her locked in a vault like she's a coin collection. Judge Harrison stood, walked to his window overlooking the courthouse square. What if I decide Mrs. Whitmore needs protection, but not from you? What if I suggest a different arrangement? Like what? Supervised visits, professional oversight, guardianship of her finances, but not her person. Clara thought carefully. That would be like being a little bit pregnant. Either you trust someone or you don't. Either Mrs. Whitmore is competent or she isn't. Halfway is just fear pretending to be careful. The judge turned back to her. You're asking me to bet a fortune on an 8-year-old's assessment of adult mental health. No, sir. I'm asking you to look at facts. Mrs. Whitmore's depression scores are improving. She's volunteering regularly. She's maintained her business interests successfully. She's making rational financial plans that protect everyone involved. The only irrational thing she's doing is loving people Margaret Whitmore thinks are beneath her. A knock on the door interrupted them. The bailiff entered. Your Honor, there's been an incident in the courtroom. They rushed back to find chaos. Anna had collapsed again. Worse this time. Paramedics were working over her. Eleanor was being physically restrained by court security from going to her. Margaret's lawyer claiming she was exhibiting dangerous excitement. Clara broke free from Judge Harrison, ran to her mother. Mama, I'm here. Anna's eyes fluttered open, focused on Clara, then on Eleanor, being held back. Let her go, she whispered to the security. Please. She's family. The guards looked at Judge Harrison, who nodded. Eleanor dropped beside Anna, took her hand. The stress. Dr. Hernandez, who'd somehow appeared, was saying, her condition. The trial, it's too much. This is what happens, Margaret said coldly, when people reach above their station, when they manipulate situations beyond their capacity, Shut up. Clara's voice cut through everything. She stood, faced Margaret directly. Just shut up. My mama is sick because she's been carrying your family's guilt for 3 years. Because her brother died thinking he failed Sarah. Because she's been cleaning up after rich people's messes her whole life, and now she's dying, and you care more about money than mercy. How dare you? I dare because I have nothing left to lose. Clara was crying now, but her voice remained strong. You already took Mrs. Whitmore's money. You're trying to take her freedom. Now you're taking my mama's last chance. What else can you do to me? Thomas Whitmore stood up in the gallery. Mother, enough. Margaret turned on him. You don't understand. I understand perfectly. You're so afraid of losing control that you'd rather destroy Eleanor than see her happy. He walked to the front. Your Honor, I'd like to make a statement. Judge Harrison, still standing in the aisle, nodded. I've known Eleanor for 25 years. She's the smartest, kindest person in our family. Yes, she got lost in grief. Yes, she made mistakes with Sarah. But what's happening now with Clara? With Anna, this isn't delusion. It's redemption. He pulled out an envelope. Sarah wrote me a letter too before she died. She asked me to make sure her mother found happiness again. She said, Tommy, Mom doesn't know how to be happy. Someone needs to teach her. I think Clara's that teacher. Margaret stood abruptly. If you side with them, you're no son of mine. Thomas met her gaze steadily. Then I guess I'm an orphan. But at least I'll be an orphan with a conscience. Anna was being lifted onto a gurney. Clara climbed up beside her, small hand fierce on her mother's arm. Eleanor stood to follow, but Margaret's lawyer blocked her. She has no legal right. Judge Harrison's voice boomed. Everyone stop! He walked to the front of the courtroom. I've seen enough. Mrs. Miller needs immediate medical attention. Clara needs both her guardians. And this court needs a recess. He looked directly at Eleanor. Ms. Whitmore, you may accompany Mrs. Miller and Clara to the hospital. Margaret Whitmore, you and your counsel will remain here. Your Honor, Margaret's lawyer protested, my client has rights. Your client has the right to remain silent while I consider whether to file charges for deliberately impeding medical care during an emergency. His gaze was steel. This hearing is not about money. It's about humanity. Something that seems to be in short supply on one side of this courtroom. As the paramedics wheeled Anna out, Clara looked back at Judge Harrison. Thank you, she mouthed. He nodded once, then turned to Margaret. We need to talk about what family really means, Mrs. Whitmore, and why you've forgotten. In the ambulance, Anna squeezed Eleanor's hand weakly. Take care of her. If I don't, you will, Eleanor said firmly. We're getting you treatment, the best treatment. With what money your accounts, I'll find a way. I'll sell everything I own if I have to. Clara looked between them. We're going to be okay, right? All of us. Eleanor pulled Clara close, feeling Anna's hand in hers, hearing the siren wail through the streets of Monterey. She thought of Sarah, of David, of all the lost souls that had brought them to this moment. We're going to be okay, she promised, and for the first time in 5 years, she believed it might be true. The hospital room smelled of disinfectant and fear. Anna lay unconscious, machines beeping around her, while Clara sat in a chair too big for her small frame, holding her mother's hand. Eleanor stood at the window, phone pressed to her ear, arguing with her bank. I don't care about the court order. This is a medical emergency. I need access to my own money. The response was predictable. Without court approval, her accounts remained frozen. She ended the call, turned to find Clara watching her. They won't help. Not yet, but I'll figure something out. Dr. Hernandez entered with test results. His face told the story before his words did. The cancer has progressed faster than we initially thought. We need to start treatment immediately. Today, ideally. How much? Eleanor asked bluntly. Initial treatment, surgery, chemotherapy without insurance. You're looking at 300,000 minimum. Clara's face went white. $300,000. I'll get it, Eleanor said firmly. How? Clara's voice cracked. Margaret froze everything. You can't even buy groceries without court approval. Eleanor knelt beside Clara's chair. I have jewelry, art, things I can sell quickly. But those were gifts from Mr. Robert, Sarah's father. They're just things, sweetheart. Your mother is a person. Anna's eyes fluttered open. No, she whispered. Eleanor, you can't. I won't let you. You don't get to let me or not let me, Eleanor said. This is my choice. It's my life. And you're our family? Clara's voice was fierce. Families don't let each other die over money. A knock at the door interrupted them. Thomas Whitmore entered, followed by a woman Eleanor didn't recognize, sharp-featured, wearing a modest suit. This is Patricia Kim, Thomas said. She's a patient advocate, and she has an idea. Patricia sat down, pulled out a tablet. There's a clinical trial at UCSF. New treatment protocol for breast cancer with your mother's specific markers. Mrs. Miller. It's experimental, but the results have been remarkable. We can't afford experimental, Anna began. The trial is free, Patricia interrupted. Fully funded. They need patients who match exact criteria. You match. Eleanor felt hope spark. What's the catch? No catch. But there are requirements. The patient needs a stable support system, home care between treatments, and Patricia hesitated. Legal documentation of who can make medical decisions if the patient becomes incapacitated. I'm her daughter, Clara said immediately. You're 8, honey. It needs to be an adult. Eleanor straightened. I'll do it. You're not legally family, Patricia pointed out. Unless... Thomas pulled out another folder. Judge Harrison issued a temporary order 20 minutes ago. Emergency guardianship of Clara to Eleanor, contingent on Anna's consent. It allows Eleanor to make medical decisions for Anna as Clara's legal guardian. Anna struggled to sit up. What about Margaret, the conservatorship? Dismissed, Thomas said with satisfaction. After her behavior in court, after refusing to allow Eleanor to help during a medical emergency, Judge Harrison ruled that Margaret was the one demonstrating impaired judgment, not Eleanor. Eleanor sank into a chair. Dismissed just like that. Not just like that. The judge wrote a scathing opinion. Said that Margaret's attempt to weaponize the legal system to prevent acts of compassion was itself evidence of moral incompetence. Thomas smiled grimly. He also noted Clara's testimony was the most cogent assessment of the situation he'd heard from anyone of any age. Clara hadn't let go of her mother's hand. So, Mrs. Whitmore can adopt me and help Mama? If your mother agrees, Thomas said gently. Anna looked at Eleanor, tears streaming. You'd do that. Take Clara if I don't. You're going to make it, Eleanor said firmly. But yes, I'd raise her as my own. I already love her as my own. And if I survive, what then? You get your family and I get pushed aside. Eleanor moved to the bed, took Anna's other hand. Then we figure it out together. Shared custody, extended family, whatever works. Clara's right, she's lucky enough to get 2 mothers who love her, Doctor. Hernandez cleared his throat. We need to make decisions quickly. The trial starts tomorrow. If we're going to get Mrs. Miller enrolled, do it, Anna said. Eleanor, you can make the decisions. I trust you. She looked at Clara. Both of you. Patricia began pulling up forms on her tablet. We'll need signatures, medical history, emergency contacts. I want to add something. Clara interrupted. To the papers? Everyone looked at her. I want it written down that if she doesn't make it, she wants Mrs. Whitmore to be my mom. And if Mrs. Whitmore gets sick, Mama takes care of her. We take care of each other. Thomas pulled out his legal pad. I can draft that. A mutual care agreement. Is that a real thing? Eleanor asked. It is now, Thomas said, beginning to write. As papers were signed and plans were made, Father O'Brien arrived. Clara had asked Eleanor to call him. He entered quietly, carrying his worn Bible and something else, a small box. Clara asked me to bring this, he said, handing the box to Eleanor. Inside were 3 simple silver chains, each with a small compass charm. They were my grandmother's. Clara explained. Well, one was, I saved up and bought 2 more from the same antique shop, so we'd all have one, so we could always find our way back to each other. Anna started crying. Eleanor was already crying. Even Thomas wiped his eyes. Father O'Brien cleared his throat. I'm not here in an official capacity, but Clara asked if I could say something about families, about how they're made. He looked at the 3 of them, Eleanor in her expensive clothes now wrinkled from the hospital, Anna pale and frightened in her hospital gown, Clara small and fierce between them. Families, he began, aren't born. They're forged. Sometimes in joy, sometimes in pain, always in choice. The choice to show up, to stay, to fight for each other when the world says you don't belong together. He pulled out a small bottle of holy water. This isn't an official sacrament, but if you'd like, I can bless this new family, this choosing. All 3 nodded. Father O'Brien sprinkled water on their joined hands. May you be family in all the ways that matter, in sickness and health, in wealth and poverty, in joy and sorrow. May you choose each other, over and over, especially when it's hard. Amen, Clara whispered. Amen. Eleanor and Anna echoed. That evening, as they prepared Anna for transfer to UCSF, Margaret appeared in the doorway. She looked older, smaller, her perfect armor cracked. I came to... She stopped, seeing them all together. Anna in the bed, Eleanor sitting beside her, Clara curled between them, reading from one of Sarah's ocean books. What do you want? Margaret. Eleanor's voice was tired, not angry. I wanted to understand. Margaret stepped into the room. How you could choose this, them, over family. They are family, Eleanor said simply. But Sarah is dead. Eleanor's voice was gentle but firm. Sarah is dead. Margaret. She's been dead for 5 years. And I've been dead with her. Until Clara. Until Anna. They brought me back to life. Margaret looked at Clara. You really love her? This isn't about money. Clara put down her book. Mrs. Margaret. I loved Mrs. Whitmore when I thought she was just a sad lady who needed someone to see her. The money doesn't make her more lovable. It just makes other people weird about our love. I don't understand, Margaret said helplessly. I know, Eleanor said. And that's okay. You don't have to understand. You just have to accept it or leave us alone. Margaret stood there for a long moment, then turned to go. At the door, she paused. Sarah would have liked her, she said quietly. Clara. Sarah would have liked her courage. Then she was gone. The transfer to UCSF happened that night. Eleanor rode with Anna in the ambulance while Thomas drove Clara in his car. The little girl fell asleep clutching her compass necklace, Sarah's ribbon still in her hair. At the hospital, they met Dr. Chen, who would be running the trial. The treatment is intensive, she explained. 3 weeks inpatient, then outpatient for 6 months. The side effects can be severe, but the success rate for patients with Anna's specific markers has been 96%. 96 is better than 93, Clara said sleepily. That's an A+ instead of an A, Dr. Chen smiled. You must be Clara. I've heard about you. The little girl who thinks in percentages. I think in lots of ways, Clara corrected. Percentages are just useful for medical things. As they settled Anna into her new room, Eleanor's phone rang. Ruth Chen, her lawyer. Eleanor, I have news. Margaret's withdrawn all claims. But more importantly, the emergency adoption can be expedited. Given Anna's medical situation, Judge Harrison is willing to finalize within 72 hours. Eleanor looked at Clara, who was arranging Anna's few belongings to make the sterile room more homelike. What does Anna need to do? Just sign consent. Thomas can witness, Judge Harrison said. And I quote, "That little girl has waited long enough for the security of legal family," Eleanor told Anna, who started crying again. "Yes," she whispered. "Yes, of course, yes." Clara climbed onto the bed carefully, mindful of the IV lines. "So I'll really be Clara Miller Whitmore." "If you want," Eleanor said. "I want—" Clara looked between them. "And when Mama gets better, we'll all live in the big house together." Eleanor and Anna exchanged glances. They hadn't discussed this. "If your Mama wants to," Eleanor said carefully. Anna's voice was small. "I'm the housekeeper. People would talk." "People already talk," Clara pointed out. "At least if we're together, we can ignore them together." The first night of treatment was brutal. Anna was sick, feverish, delirious. She called for David, apologized over and over for not saving him. Eleanor held her hand while Clara curled in the chair, refusing to leave. "I'm here," Eleanor whispered. "David forgives you. Sarah forgives you. We all forgive each other." Anna's eyes cleared for a moment. "Take care of her. If I don't make it, you'll make it. But if I don't, then Clara will have me, and all the love I couldn't give Sarah, all the love you couldn't save David with, all of it goes to her. She'll be the most loved little girl in California." Anna squeezed her hand. "She already is." As dawn broke over San Francisco Bay, Clara woke up, looked at her two mothers, one sick, one exhausted, both fighting, and pulled out her notebook. "What are you writing?" Eleanor asked. "A letter to Sarah, telling her about us. I think she'd want to know that her mom found a family, that her roses are still blooming, that her books are being read, that her memory brought us together instead of keeping us apart." Eleanor read over her shoulder. "Dear Sarah, you don't know me, but I know you. Your mom tells me stories. You liked whales and couldn't sing and threw perfect sea glass back into the ocean for others to find. I'm taking care of your mom now. She's taking care of me too. And my mama, who's sick but getting better. We're a weird family, but we're real. Your mom says you would have been my big sister. I would have liked that. Love. Clara." "Should I put it in the ocean?" Clara asked. "Like a message in a bottle." "We could put it with her roses," Eleanor suggested. "Let it become part of the garden." Clara nodded. She'd like that. New life from old sadness. As Anna slept, poisoned by medicine that would save her, Eleanor and Clara kept watch. 3 compasses catching morning light. 3 hearts beating in different rhythms but the same song. A family forged in loss, held together by choice, stronger than blood or money or the world's opinion. The hardest days were still ahead, but they would face them together. 3 weeks into treatment, Anna's body was winning. The cancer markers had dropped by 60%. Dr. Chen called it remarkable response. Clara called it Mama being stubborn about living. Eleanor just held both their hands and whispered prayers she hadn't said since Sarah's funeral. The adoption had been finalized in a quiet ceremony in Anna's hospital room. Judge Harrison himself had come, bringing the documents and a stuffed whale for Clara, because every child deserves a celebration gift. Clara Miller Whitmore existed now in law as she had in heart Eleanor's daughter, with Anna's full blessing. It was Thursday morning when Thomas arrived with news that would change everything. "I've been going through old files," he said, pulling out a manila envelope. from the days after Sarah's death. The police released her personal effects to Robert, but he couldn't bear to look at them. They've been in storage. Eleanor's breath caught. Why are you showing me this now? Because there's something you need to see. He pulled out a phone, Sarah's phone, in its familiar pink case. It was dead, has been for 5 years, but I charged it, had our IT person recover the data. Thomas, I don't know if I can. You need to? His voice was gentle but firm. There's a video. From that night. From the bridge. Clara stood up from where she'd been reading to Anna. Maybe I should leave. No, Eleanor said, pulling her close. We don't have secrets anymore. Thomas connected the phone to his tablet. Larger screen for all to see. She recorded this about an hour before. It's addressed to you, Eleanor. Sarah's face filled the screen. 17 years old, wearing the Columbia University sweatshirt Eleanor had bought her, hair whipping in the wind off the Pacific. She was crying, but also laughing, that strange combination Eleanor remembered from Sarah's manic episodes before they knew she was bipolar. Hi, Mom. Sarah's voice, unchanged by death, filled the hospital room. If you're watching this, it means I couldn't do it. Couldn't jump. Which means I'm probably in a psychiatric hospital somewhere and you're watching this with doctors. And I'm so sorry. But if you're watching this alone, then I did it. And I'm even more sorry. Eleanor made a sound half sob, half gasp. Clara's arms went around her waist. Sarah continued. I want you to know this isn't your fault. It's not about the money or you working too much or Dad dying. It's about my brain being broken. Dr. Mitchell says it's chemistry, not character. But knowing that doesn't make the dark days easier. On screen, Sarah sat down on what looked like a bench. The Golden Gate Bridge towers were visible in the background. I've been thinking about what I want to say, all day. I've been writing letters in my head. But they all sound angry or mean or pathetic. So I'm just going to tell you the truth. She took a deep breath. I love you. I've always loved you. Even when I said I hated you. Even when I threw things. Even when I told you I wished you weren't my mother. That was the sickness talking. Not me. Anna reached over from her bed, took Eleanor's hand. I know you're going to blame yourself. Sarah continued. You're going to think if you'd just been home more, been different, been better, I wouldn't have done this. But Mom, I'm sick. My brain doesn't make the right chemicals. And medication helps sometimes, but sometimes it doesn't. And I'm so tired of fighting my own mind every single day. Sarah stood up, walked closer to the camera. But here's what I want you to know, really know. You were a good mother. Not perfect, but good. You taught me to be generous, to work hard, to care about people who have less. Remember when we used to volunteer at the soup kitchen before Dad got really rich? Those were my happiest memories. Just you and me, serving food, not talking about anything important. She paused, wiped her eyes. I wrote something else in my note. Something cruel about wishing you could have another daughter who knew how to love. I'm going to send that note because when I'm in the dark place, I want to hurt you like I'm hurting. But it's not true. You know how to love. You just love like Dad did by providing, by protecting, by making sure there's enough money for everything. Sarah sat back down. David's waiting in the car. He thinks I'm watching the sunset. He's a good guy. Mom, don't blame him. He's been teaching me to drive and telling me about his sister who's a single mom, working 3 jobs. Anna, I think her name is. He says she's the strongest person he knows. Eleanor and Anna exchanged stunned looks. I keep thinking, Sarah said, about what you told me once. That family isn't just blood. It's the people who show up, who stay. I wish I was strong enough to stay, Mom, but I'm not. My brain is too tired. She stood again, walked to the camera. But maybe if I can't stay, someone else will come. Someone who needs you like you need to be needed. Someone who can receive all that love you have stored up. Don't close your heart. Mom, promise me, even if I break it, don't close it. The video ended. The room was silent except for the beep of Anna's monitors. Thomas cleared his throat. There's more. Text messages she didn't send. She'd written one to David. He showed them. David, thank you for being kind. Tell your sister she's lucky to have a brother who cares so much. Maybe one day she'll meet my mom and they can be sad together about us being gone. She knew, Anna whispered. Somehow, she knew. Clara, who had been uncharacteristically quiet, spoke up. She didn't really want to die. Everyone looked at her. The video. She was trying to talk herself out of it. That's why she recorded it. She was hoping she'd watch herself and change her mind. Dr. Mitchell's words from years ago echoed in Eleanor's memory. Suicide is often an impulsive act, if we can just get them through the moment. But she didn't get through the moment, Eleanor said hollowly. No, Clara agreed. But she gave us permission to be a family, to find each other. It's like... She struggled for words. Like she threw us into the ocean for each other to find. Like sea glass. Thomas pulled out another document. There's one more thing. Sarah had a small trust. Separate from the main estate. About $2 million from her grandmother Whitmore. It was supposed to transfer to her at 18, since she died before that. It's been in limbo. It should go to charity, Eleanor said immediately. One that helps teens with mental illness. Actually, Thomas said carefully, Robert's will had a provision. If Sarah died without children, her trust would go to any other children Eleanor legally adopted. Eleanor stared at him. What? Robert always hoped you'd have more children. Adoption, remarriage, whatever. He wanted Sarah to have siblings. This was his way of encouraging that, even after he was gone. So, Clara would inherit Sarah's trust when she turns 18, with you as trustee until then. Clara shook her head. I don't want it. It's Sarah's money. It's your money, Thomas corrected gently. Sarah's father wanted his daughter's siblings to have it. You're legally Eleanor's daughter now. That makes you Sarah's sister. But it feels wrong, Clara insisted. Like I'm profiting from her death. Eleanor knelt beside her. No, sweetheart. You're not profiting from her death. You're benefiting from her father's love. Robert would have adored you. He would have been first in line to sign those adoption papers. What would Sarah want? Clara asked. They all considered this. Finally, Anna spoke from the bed, her voice weak but clear. She'd want it used for something meaningful. Education. Helping others. Not just sitting in an account. The Clara and Sarah Foundation, Eleanor said suddenly. For kids who need families, who need medical care, who need someone to see them. Clara's eyes widened. Both our names. Both your names. Sisters in purpose, if not in time. Thomas was already taking notes. I can draft the paperwork. Its elegant turns inheritance into legacy. Wait, Clara said. I want to add something. Some of the money should go to kids whose parents are sick, for stuff insurance doesn't cover, like hotels near hospitals, or food that doesn't come from vending machines, or someone to stay with them when their parents are too sick to get out of bed. She was thinking of the nights she'd spent alone while Anna worked. Eleanor realized the fears no child should carry alone. Yes, Eleanor said. Absolutely yes. Judge Harrison, who none of them had noticed entering, spoke from the doorway. I apologize for intruding. I came to check on the patient, but I couldn't help overhearing. He stepped into the room. Clara, in my 40 years on the bench, I've never seen a child with your sense of justice. Have you thought about what you want to be when you grow up? Clara looked at her two mothers, Anna pale but fighting, Eleanor strong but softened. Someone who helps families stay together. Maybe a judge like you, or a lawyer like Ruth, or maybe just someone who makes sure no kid has to choose between their mom getting medicine and having electricity. All noble callings, Judge Harrison said. He pulled something from his briefcase. The court wanted to give you something. It's unusual, but then, this whole case has been unusual. It was a gavel. Child-sized but real, with a brass nameplate, Clara Miller Whitmore, Advocate for Justice. Clara held it reverently. It's heavy. Justice usually is, the judge said. But you seem strong enough to carry it. After he left, they sat in comfortable silence. Anna dozed. Eleanor held Clara, who was still clutching her small gavel. Mrs. Whitmore, Clara said. Can I still call you that? Or should I call you Mom? Whatever feels right. Eleanor, Clara tried out. That feels right. Like we're partners. Partners, Eleanor agreed. And Mama is still Mama. Always. Clara pulled out her notebook again, turned to a fresh page. I want to write Sarah a letter. Tell her we saw her video. What will you say? Clara thought. Then began writing in her careful script. Dear Sarah, we saw your video. You were wrong about one thing. You were strong enough. Strong enough to love your mom even when your brain was lying to you. Strong enough to think about David and his sister when you were hurting. Strong enough to throw perfect sea glass back into the world. You threw your mom back too. And Mama and I found her. We're polishing her up, making her shine again. Your dad's money will help kids who need families. Your roses are blooming. Your books are being read. Your mom smiles now. Real smiles. Not the fake ones from photographs. You were strong enough, Sarah. You just couldn't see it through the dark. Love. Your sister in heart, if not in time. Clara. She showed it to Eleanor, who was crying too hard to speak. Anna, awake now, reached for the notebook. Add this, Anna whispered. Tell her David forgave himself before he died. He went peaceful. Tell her that, Clara added the postscript. Then, spontaneously, she drew a small compass at the bottom of the page. So she can find her way, Clara explained, wherever she is. As the sun set over San Francisco Bay, painting the hospital room gold, 3 women held hands around a letter to a girl they'd all lost and found in different ways. Tomorrow would bring more treatment, more challenges, more fighting for life and love and legal recognition. But tonight, they had truth. Sarah's truth, finally revealed. Permission to love past death. Permission to become the family none of them had planned, but all of them needed. The compass charms caught the light, pointing true north toward each other, toward hope, toward home. 18 months had passed since the day Clara first walked into Eleanor's mansion. The November air carried salt from the Pacific as 3 figures stood on the beach where Sarah had once collected sea glass. Anna, her hair growing back in soft curls after chemo, looked healthier than she had in years. The cancer was gone. No evidence of disease, Dr. Chen had declared at her last scan. Eleanor, dressed in jeans and a windbreaker instead of her usual designer suits, looked younger somehow, lighter. And Clara, now 10, had grown 3 inches and lost her first molar, which the tooth fairy Eleanor had exchanged for a first edition of 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. They were here for a ceremony of their own making. Clara had suggested it. We should say goodbye to the sad parts and hello to the happy parts. In her hands, Clara held 3 white roses from the garden, Sarah's roses, but also theirs now. Anna carried a small box containing David's driving gloves, the ones he'd been wearing the night he drove Sarah. Eleanor held Sarah's phone, the one with the video, which she'd watched exactly once more before deciding to let it go. Who wants to go first? Clara asked. Ever the organizer? Anna stepped forward, her feet sinking slightly in the sand. David, big brother, you carried guilt that wasn't yours to carry. You died thinking you failed, but you didn't. You brought our families together. Your memory brought healing where there was only hurt. She kissed the gloves, then threw them into the waves. Be free, David. We're okay now. Eleanor went next. She looked at the phone. This last tangible piece of Sarah's final day. My darling girl, you thought you weren't strong enough to stay, but your leaving taught us how to hold on to each other. Your video gave us permission to love again. Your trust is helping children find families. Your roses bloom for Clara now. She drew back her arm and sent the phone arcing into the ocean. Rest now, sweetheart. We've got it from here. Clara looked at her roses, then at her mother's. I never met Sarah, but I know her through the spaces she left. Like when you do a puzzle and the missing piece shows you the shape of what belongs there. She walked to the water's edge. Sarah, thank you for the empty space. It was exactly Clara-shaped. She let the roses go one by one. Watching them drift on the current, they stood together, arms linked, watching the sun paint the sky orange and pink. The Whitmore Foundation's first class of scholarship recipients would graduate next month. 15 children who'd aged out of foster care, now college-bound with full support. The Clara and Sarah Fund had paid for Anna's treatment and 17 other families' medical expenses. The mansion had been transformed too, the East Wing converted into a respite center where families could stay while their loved ones received treatment at UCSF. Look, Clara pointed. A pod of dolphins curved through the waves, their fins catching the light. Sarah would have loved that. She would have, Eleanor agreed. They turned to walk back to the car, sand clinging to their shoes. Tomorrow was Thanksgiving, and they had preparations to make. Thomas was coming with his new girlfriend. Ruth Chen would be there with her family. Father O'Brien had promised to say grace. Even Margaret had been invited, though she'd declined politely, which was progress. As they reached the parking lot, Clara stopped. Wait, I forgot something. She ran back toward the beach, her compass necklace bouncing against her chest. At the high tide line, she knelt and began searching through the shells and debris. Eleanor and Anna watched, puzzled, as Clara picked something up, examined it, then ran back. Found it, she said breathlessly, opening her palm. It was a piece of sea glass. Perfect. Smooth. The exact blue of Eleanor's eyes. But you're supposed to throw the perfect ones back, Eleanor said. Clara shook her head. That was Sarah's rule. This is my rule when you find something perfect. You keep it. You treasure it. You don't let it go. She pressed the glass into Eleanor's hand. For your pocket. So you remember that perfect things can survive the ocean. They just come out different. Smoother. Catching light in new ways. Eleanor pulled Clara close, Anna's arms wrapping around them both. They stood there in the parking lot, 3 survivors holding each other as the dolphins played in the distance and the sky turned purple with approaching night. Ready to go home? Eleanor asked. We are home, Clara corrected. Home is wherever we're all together. The mansion that night was warm with cooking smells. Anna, finally strong enough to stand for hours, was making her mother's recipes Puerto Rican dishes she'd never had anyone to cook for. Eleanor was attempting Sarah's favorite cookies with Clara's supervision and frequent corrections. Too much butter, Clara said, peering at the dough. Sarah liked them buttery, but I like them crispy. And I'm here. The simplicity of it, I'm here, still took Eleanor's breath away. The presence of this child who noticed everything, who loved fiercely, who'd taught 2 broken women how to be whole. Eleanor, Anna called from the stove. Can you taste this? Eleanor crossed to her, accepted the spoon. It's perfect. You sure? Not too much salt? Anna. Eleanor touched her arm gently. Stop worrying. Everything you make is perfect because you make it with love. Anna flushed. In 18 months, she'd gone from employee to family, but sometimes the old dynamics surfaced, the apologizing, the uncertainty. the feeling that she didn't belong in this kitchen as anything other than staff. "Mama, you're burning the rice," Clara called out, and Anna rushed back to the stove. Later. They sat around the kitchen table, not the formal dining room. Never the formal dining room anymore. Clara was reading from Sarah's whale book, a nightly tradition now. "Blue whales can hear each other from up to 1,000 miles away," she read. "Their songs travel through the ocean, finding each other across impossible distances." "Like us," Anna said softly. "We found each other across impossible distances." "The distance between rich and poor," Eleanor added. "Between guilt and forgiveness." Anna continued. "Between sadness and happiness." Clara concluded. They were quiet for a moment, listening to the ocean through the open windows. Then Clara yawned hugely. "Bedtime, little whale," Eleanor said. "I'm not tired." Clara protested, then yawned again. They climbed the stairs together, a nightly ritual. Clara's room, Sarah's old room. Transformed with Clara's touches, glowed softly with nightlights shaped like stars. The walls held both Clara's drawings and Sarah's photographs, past and present in harmony. As Clara brushed her teeth, Anna and Eleanor stood in the doorway, watching. "We did it," Anna said quietly. "We really did it. Survived everything. Margaret's lawyers, cancer, the custody battle, that reporter who called us an unconventional arrangement." Anna laughed. "My favorite was Billionaire's bizarre blended family. As if love is bizarre." Eleanor scoffed. Clara appeared in her pajamas whales, of course. Story. "Which one tonight?" Eleanor asked. "The real one. The one about us." So Eleanor began, as she did many nights. "Once upon a time, there was a very sad woman in a very big house, and a very tired woman in a very small apartment," Anna added. "And a very smart girl who saw everything," Clara continued. "And they found each other when they needed each other most," they said together. It was their story, their truth, their fairy tale that wasn't a fairy tale because it was real. Clara's eyes drooped as they told it, adding new details each time: how Thomas had stood up to his mother, how Judge Harrison had cried when he signed the adoption papers, how Father O'Brien had blessed their strange, beautiful family. When Clara was asleep, the two women tiptoed out, leaving the door cracked so the hall light could creep in. "Coffee?" Anna asked. "Wine?" Eleanor corrected. "It's been a day." They sat on the deck, wrapped in blankets, watching stars appear over the Pacific. The silence was comfortable now, not the aching emptiness Eleanor had lived with for years, or the anxious quiet of Anna's guilt. "I've been thinking," Anna said, "about the future." Eleanor tensed slightly. They'd been living day by day, not pushing for definitions or boundaries. "I want to go back to school," Anna continued. "Nursing. The foundation could use someone medical on staff. And I want to help people the way people helped me." "That's wonderful. We'll make it happen. But I also want—" Anna paused, gathering courage. "I want to know what we are, to each other. Not just as Clara's mothers, but as us." Eleanor set down her wine. In 18 months, she'd thought about this countless times. How Anna's laugh made her feel lighter. How Anna's strength had held them all together. How somewhere between shared hospital vigils and bedtime stories, she'd fallen in love with this woman who'd entered her life carrying unbearable guilt and stayed to build unbearable joy. "I love you," Eleanor said simply. "Not as Clara's mother, not as my employee, not as my friend. Though you are that, I'm in love with you. Anna Miller." Anna's breath hitched. "But we're so different. The money, the background, everything. Clara told me once that I speak gift language and Sarah spoke time language. You speak both. You speak all the languages of love. You speak them fluently." Anna stood, moved to Eleanor's chair. knelt beside it. I love you too. Have for months. Maybe since that day you cried in my arms in the rain, looking for Clara. You weren't a billionaire then. You were just a mother, terrified of losing another daughter. Eleanor traced Anna's face with her fingers. This face she'd memorized through fear and hope and healing. What about Clara? Are you kidding? She's been planning our wedding for 6 months. She has a binder. Eleanor laughed, pulled Anna up and into her lap. Of course she does. They kissed then, soft and sure, tasting wine and promise and the salt air of Monterey. When they pulled apart, Clara was standing in the doorway, rubbing her eyes. Finally, she said. I was starting to think I'd have to be more obvious about the whole thing. Clara Miller Whitmore, Anna scolded. Were you eavesdropping? I was getting water, but also, yes. She padded over to them, climbed into the chair, making a Clara sandwich between her mothers. So, wedding when, slow down, little whale. Eleanor laughed. Spring, Clara decided. In the rose garden, Sarah's roses and our roses all blooming together. Father O'Brien can officiate. Thomas can walk Mama down the aisle since she doesn't have anyone else. Ruth can be Eleanor's best woman. And I'll be the ring bearer and the flower girl and the person who says, I now pronounce you family, at the end. Anna and Eleanor exchanged looks over Clara's head, amused, amazed, in love. Spring it is, Eleanor agreed. They sat together watching the stars wheel overhead, 3 hearts that had found each other across impossible odds. In the garden, roses slept through winter, gathering strength for spring blooms. In the ocean, whales sang to each other across vast distances. And in a mansion that had once echoed with loneliness, a family that chose itself settled in for the night, complete and complicated and absolutely perfect in its imperfection. The last thing Clara said before falling asleep between her mothers was, Sarah would be happy. I know because I can feel her in the house now. And she's not sad anymore. She's just free. Eleanor and Anna held their daughter and each other as the fog rolled in, wrapping the world in soft gray. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new joys, new moments of choosing each other. But tonight, they were exactly where they belonged together, at the intersection of loss and love, where broken hearts learn to beat again. I've told you this story because I needed you to know something I learned too late. Gratitude isn't about what you have, it's about who sees you having it. Eleanor had millions, but no one to witness her life. Anna had nothing but carried the weight of witnessed tragedy. Clara had less than nothing, but saw everything with grateful eyes. That moment when Clara returned the medicine instead of taking the money, she wasn't choosing poverty over wealth. She was choosing connection over isolation. She understood what I didn't understand until my own mother died. Family isn't the people you're born to. It's the people who show up when you're taking expired antidepressants and pretending to sleep because you're too afraid to be awake. We spend so much time defining family by blood, by law, by tradition, but Clara knew better. Family is the 8-year-old who holds your hand while you fall apart. It's the stranger who carries your brother's guilt like a map back to forgiveness. It's the widow who trades her fortune for your mother's life without hesitation. The real miracle isn't that they found each other. It's that they chose to keep finding each other every day, despite every reason not to.